Hello everyone, Muckluck Douglas Bartholomew Reginald Esquire IV here, and this is a guide to the basics of playing the Icy-Hot Quickdraw build in PvP. I'm making this guide in League Season 21 soon after the mega patch hit that had hundreds of class changes, and this is my favorite way of playing Ranger at the moment, and also a way that I have seen no one else play. Because of how scarce this playstyle is, it gives it an element of surprise as well, many people not knowing how to handle it, and I've reached High Platinum 1 with it this season, so it is at least capable of that. I make no claims that this is the best build, just that it is a lot of fun and it can carry you at least that high. With that out of the way, let's get started. Specializations and talents. Wilderness Survival. Natural Vigor gives us 25% faster endurance generation at all times. This means more dodge rolls. Child of Earth. Creates muddy terrain when you use a healing skill. This will immobilize enemies next to you and pulse cripple and slow a couple of times. Also notice that the lesser muddy terrain is a survival type skill, which allows it to benefit from wilderness knowledge. More on that in a moment. Companion's Defense. You and your pet gain protection when you dodge roll for 2 seconds. Slightly increased survivability. Ambidexterity. Gain condition damage. Gain more condition damage with a torch or dagger. This build works with both, and the recharge rate on dagger and torch skills is 20% faster. Whether you choose to use Axe Torch or Axe Dagger in this build, you don't have to change traits because they use the same one. Rugged Growth. You and your pet gain healing each second you have protection. Remember, we get protection for a couple of seconds after a dodge roll. Also, we will be using the Protect Me skill, which gives protection. Combined with this is even more healing. Wilderness Knowledge. I almost hate how good this talent is because so many ranger builds feel forced to take it. But let's just focus on how great it is for now. This gives all survival skills faster recharge, they remove 2 conditions, and give fury. Remember that muddy terrain earlier? This means that when we use any healing skill, it will proc muddy terrain, and that will cure 2 conditions off of us. Additionally, we will be using 2 other survival skills, Sharpening Stone and Entangle, and 1 other trait that counts as a survival skill. More on that soon. Skirmishing. Tailwind. Gains swiftness when weapon swapping in combat. A little bit more mobility when weapon swapping in battle. Trapper's Expertise. Every trait in this tier is so tempting, but we're going with Trapper's Expertise. It reduces the cooldown of our traps, which is Healing Spring and Flame Trap, increases the duration of their effects by 60%, which is a massive increase to the damage and healing of those traps, and makes them cripple enemies, being caught in them longer. Furious Grip. Gain Fury when swapping weapons in combat. Although we have some power from our Carrion Amulet, we aren't a Ferocity build, so our crits aren't that impressive. For the most part, I don't notice Fury much. Hidden Barbs, 33% more damage from bleeding. We do a lot of bleeding. It isn't hard to get over 20 stacks on someone with this build, so this is a very strong trait for us. Hunter's Tactics, 10% more damage and crit chance when hitting an enemy from the side or back. A small increase, but a welcome one. Quickdraw. Did you see the name of the build? Yes, we're taking Quickdraw. This is possibly my favorite ranger trait, and I will show you how amazing this is soon. The quick version is that after you weapon swap in combat, your next weapon skill, so that's 1 through 5, will cool down very, very fast. Beast Mastery. Pack Alpha. Look at me. I am the alpha now. This gives bonus to all stats of your pet, and 20% reduced recharge of all of their skills. As an example, most of the Smoke Scales abilities have a 20-second recharge. With this, they become 16 seconds. Resounding
Timbre.
There is no great choice in this tier, but Resounding is a good option. Shorter cooldown on Protect Me, and makes it pulse regen and swiftness to nearby allies. Loud Whistle. While high on health, your pet does more damage, and the cooldown of your pet swap is reduced by 20%. In combat, this takes it from 20 seconds down to 16. Two-Handed Training. We are taking this talent for the underwater spear bonuses it gives on the Capricorn. What do you mean they removed underwater combat from Capricorn? We are taking this for the shorter cooldown on greatsword skills. The ones I care most about are Swoop and Block. Pet Prowess. Your pet moves 30% faster and gains more ferocity. This makes it easier for your pet to stick on a target that's moving around a lot. Fantastic passive. Lesser Quickening Zephyr. I really want honed axes in the straight line for the reduced recharge, but Lesser Quickening Zephyr is so good. It procs on every single in-combat pet swap, giving you and your pet quickness, super speed, fury, and removing 2 conditions because it counts as a survival skill and synergizes with wilderness knowledge. Let me say that once more for the people in the back. Your pet swap is now a condition cleanse and a steroid. Skills. Healing Spring. Healing Spring heals for nearly 5k instantly, procs our Muddy Terrain, cures 2 conditions from that. Then, as long as someone is in the circle that is not full health, it will trigger, opening the spring. It will stack regeneration on all allies in the area, cure 2 conditions off of everyone in the area immediately, and then 2 more conditions off everyone in the area every 2 seconds. And because it's a trap, it will make you invisible and give you super speed when you drop it, thanks to our Rune of the Trapper. Why not Troll Unguent? Troll Unguent is a fantastic choice, and it is often considered the standard. Because Troll is a survival skill that will cure 2 plus 2 with Muddy Terrain for a total of 4 conditions once used, and heal for approximately 8k health over 8 seconds. This means that Unguent cures 4 conditions instantly, and you don't have to stay still to use it, plus the 8k health over time. Spring heals for 5k instantly, so for the first 5 seconds you have gained more health than with Unguent, then continues to regenerate you for up to 30 seconds, if you stayed in the circle for the full duration, often less than that. So there are a few seconds where the Troll Unguent pulls ahead, then Spring overtakes it after, if your regen was not removed. But compared to Unguent curing 4 conditions, Spring can cure up to 14 on you and up to 12 on all nearby allies. This skill can completely counter an enemy Condi, Necro, Revenant, or Mesmer that is bombarding your team on a point for 10 seconds. I love it. Flame Trap. The shortest cooldown trap, which means if we use this on cooldown, we can trigger Rune of the Trapper at least every 12 seconds for stealth and super speed. It does 5 pulses of burning on 5 targets in a mere 3 seconds. It hits quite fast. With our build, each pulse does 2k burn for a total of 10,000 burn per target. It is unblockable, it will cripple, and it will use up Sharpening Stone to bleed everyone it can as well. I have gotten surprise kills more than once, even in Platinum, from soft delicate thieves stepping onto a sharpened flame trap and they didn't have enough out-of-combat condition cleanse to cure themselves. Then just ping them on the map for someone to go over and finish them off. Sharpening Stone, a survival skill. This has its cooldown reduced by our traits and cures 2 conditions when used. It also makes our next 10 hits sharpened, doing 1600 bleed. That's a total of 16,000 bleed damage we can pre-cast. Use this when approaching a fight so that as soon as you unload all of the sharpened attacks, you can use it again for up to 32,000 bleed burst into the enemy team. Because it procs on each hit, Flame Trap will attempt to use up to 5 charges of sharpen per enemy. Axe 2 will use 5 charges if they all hit, etc. Having this button and mashing it often is a massive DPS boost to this build. Protect Me. We have to have a stun break, and as of the last patch, this became a very strong option. Protect Me now grants about 4,000 barrier to the ranger. It grants protection, remember, that heals us now. It grants regen and swiftness to all nearby allies with the trait, and is an AoE stun break. This is unnoticeable sometimes and is monumental other times. Imagine an enemy Necro dropping an AoE fear on your team. You hit Protect Me to snap yourself out of it and you stun break your entire team from the fears. Or a Hollowsmith knocks you all down and you pop everyone up immediately. The other option I might consider for this slot is Lightning Reflexes because it is also an Amobi cleanse, but I honestly like Protect Me more. The ultimate. Entangle. A survival skill, it benefits from our traits, curing conditions and having a mere 48-second cooldown. Entangle attempts to root everyone nearby, it is unblockable, and goes through walls. So many people don't know this. You can hit people behind a wall, on a platform above you, on Kylo, etc. If they don't break the roots, it does up to 8,200 bleeding with our build, and will use up to 5 charges of Sharpening Stone to boost the damage, another 8,000, again, if they don't break out. Why not Strength of the Pack? As of the Mega Patch, stability durations were drastically shortened. As a core ranger, we have nearly 0 stability, but you can use Strength of the Pack to gain 6 seconds of it. However, Necromancers are extremely popular right now, and if they so much as look at you with your 10 stacks of stability, it's corrupted and turned into a fear. I honestly have found myself to be a much bigger threat on the battlefield with roots lately. Weapons. Axe and Torch. Let's touch on each weapon skill and how it looks with our build. Axe 1. A weak auto attack with our build, but it hits 2 targets. It can sharpen bleed both of them and builds might. Axe 2. Split Blade, aka the shotgun. fires a fan of 5 blades. If all 5 hit a target, you're looking at 12,000 bleed damage. If you have a sharpening stone active, it will use 5 charges of it, 1 per blade, and doing a point-blank split blade will apply 10 bleeds to the enemy. These projectiles pierce and can hit multiple foes. Winter's Bite was improved in the Mega Patch. It is now AoE by default and is the reason I wanted to try this build. Getting chilled is one of the worst feelings in PvP, so naturally I wanted to share that feeling with everyone. With our stats, Winter's Bite is a 900 range projectile that then explodes, doing chill and 7400 bleed to everyone near the impact, and your pet will weakness on the next attack. Throw Torch. Compared to our other hits, this one is more mild. It is about a 5k burn with a small AoE, added to the game in the same patch that Winter's Bite was made AoE baseline, but is our only 1200 range hit. You can use this as you approach the battle when your other harder hitters are on cooldown or to catch someone running away. Bonfire. Oh, Bonfire, how I love thee. Slam the ground to burn the world, doing 11k burning damage to everyone who stays in it, using up to 9 charges of sharpening stone per target and making a combo field. My favorite move when we down an enemy is to bonfire them. It is killing them, and anyone who runs in to res them is also burning badly. You can swap Torch with Dagger for a few pros and cons. Dagger 4. If you take Dagger, your 4 is Stalker Strike. It is a long evade, that's 1.25 seconds, and poisons them for about 3,000. 5,000 if their movement is impaired. With this setup, your 3 and your 5 are movement impairments. If you use those first, Dagger 4 hits harder. Dagger 5 is Crippling Talon, a short cripple and 3,700 bleed at 1,200 range, but it holds 2 charges. Similar to Torch 4, use this on approach when the enemy is running or when everything else is on cooldown. Great Sword. 1 is the auto attack, it cleaves. 2, Maul. We're not a precision ferocity build. Our maul hits for like 2,000. I often use this when approaching a fight just because it boosts our pet's next hit. Then I swap to axe and torch as I initiate. Don't enter combat with the great sword in hand if you can help it, there's a reason. Swoop, a travel move, helps you run from a fight or move around the map. The last half second of the animation is an evade frame. Can be used for that in a fight if desperate. Counterattack. This is the only reason I'm taking the sword. I really wish we had other block options besides this one option, but alas. This gives 3 seconds of block, and if you are hit while blocking, you have a 5-second window to press the key again to evade for 3/4 of a second and kick away people near you. Used for survival or to knock enemies off of a point or a platform. Hilt Bash resets the cooldown on Maul, dazes when hit from the front, stuns when hit from the back. The most often time I use this is when I've downed one enemy, someone else runs up to res them, I'll weapon swap to the sword and bash the reviver in the back to stop the revive. Pet choices. The numbers I say after this point on are including the Beast Mastery traits. Smoke Scale. Has a knockdown on a 16-second cooldown. Smoke Assault, which does 5 hits while teleporting to the enemy on a 16-second cooldown, and is somewhat sturdy. Sadly, I can't combo with Smoke Field much with this build, but if you are duo queuing, you might get some use out of it. If you're a solo queue, consider the Smoke Field button to be a Save the Pet button. The Smoke Scale will evade while he's standing in it. Jacaranda. On a 16-second cooldown, can fire a projectile. If it hits, it'll summon a root to hold the opponent still. If you were using the smoke scale and you hit F4, F2, you will swap to the Jacaranda, attempt to root the target, and then he will immediately use his Call Lightning ability, which does massive damage to targets that are not moving, upwards of 7 to 9k if they're in the whole thing. I also like to swap to Jacaranda when I downstate someone, so that if anyone moves in to revive, the lightning is pummeling them both. The Jacka is also fairly tanky. It can tank things like the Lord on Foefire and the Beast on the Forest of Niflhel quite well. Has a self-condition cleanse and self-heal. Useful in a few other odd situations, like if you downstate a Necro, but his downstate damage is giving you trouble, you can just back out of his range and the Jacaranda can finish him. Even if he starts leech-lifing on the Jacaranda, he will lose from the self-healing Onion blasting him to death with lightning. Other pet options. I would in no way consider replacing the Jacaranda. You could possibly replace the smoke scale. perhaps with a glass cannon pet such as a tiger or a bird. However, I will warn you that if you do this and it does die, your pet swap goes on the long cooldown of a minute, and if that happens, you lose your 16-second cooldown super speed quickness condition cleanse. Amulet. Carry an amulet gives power, vitality, and lots of condition damage. We don't care much about the power, but it doesn't hurt. The other two are fantastic and are the reason we chose this. Runes. Rune of the Trapper. Required. As already mentioned, this synergizes with Flame Trap and Healing Spring, making them super speed and stealth you on every use. Also a large boost to condition damage. Axe Torch or Axe Dagger sigils. Agony for more bleed damage, Smoldering for more burn damage. Greatsword sigils. Escape. This makes swapping to your greatsword an immobilization break, and our greatsword is our survival or travel weapon, so this is perfect. Energy. Gives you endurance when you swap to the greatsword. Again, this fits its role of survival and movement. If I was going to replace any sigil, it would be energy. I do not recommend you give up any of the others. Playstyle. Start every possible fight with axe/offhand in hand, not the greatsword. If they have a guardian, throw Torch 4, Dagger 5, or an auto attack on approach to eat up his block. Then Winter's Bite/Split Blade on cooldown. If you can get in close to the enemy pile, use Entangle, Bonfire, and Flame Trap for massive amount of unblockable area of effect damage. Make sure to keep hitting Sharpening Stone every time it is available and the old charges are run out. Note, the charges last for 30 seconds, the cooldown is 24 seconds with the trait. If you get CC'd and you aren't in danger, save the Protect Me for later. When you use Healing Spring, remember you will go invisible, so you can use it to juke an enemy and then run the other way. Also remember it cures a mountain of conditions off your entire team. Sometimes it is worth putting the spring down even when you don't need healing to cure the conditions off your whole team if you're fighting on a point. When fighting a condition-based opponent, this can swing the fight. The regen on your whole team isn't bad either. If you get in trouble, you have two major options. Swap to the Greatsword and press 4 immediately. It will use the Quickdraw and start blocking for 3 seconds. You can counter-attack kick after a short evade, and a few seconds later you can block again for 3 seconds, and counter-attack kick again for a second short evade. If you are still in trouble, swoop away. You can use Swoop, Super Speed from Pet Swap, and Super Speed and Stealth from Flame Trap to get away if running is ever required. If after swapping to Greatsword you just need to get the out, then use Greatsword 3 right after swapping and it will Quickdraw, and you can use it again almost immediately after to double swoop, gaining a lot of ground. Most enemies assume you are Hermes at this point and just give up. If they do pursue, you still have block. If after being in Greatsword for 10 seconds you are still in the fight, swap back to Axe Torch and we have a few options. If you're in the pile, Quickdraw the Bonfire, Torch 5, allowing you to do 2 bonfires back to back. If you're at range, Quickdraw the Axe 3 Winter's Bite and hurl 2 of those into the enemy pile, inflicting mass bleed and chill and weakness on one of them. If using the dagger and under pressure, Quickdraw the Dagger 4 for the evade and poison 2 times in a row. If you're trying to hold a point, remember that going invisible makes you not count for capturing the point. If you use Healing Spring or Flame Trap, immediately press 1 to do an attack on your enemy, which will reduce your time invisible to about 1 second. The point will decap by 1 tick, so judge if that is okay based on what's happening. Remember, you can use Greatsword 4 to attempt to kick them off of the point to gain a tick. Projectiles. We use a lot of projectiles, and it is important to understand that many classes can just turn those off. Guardian Bubbles, Scrapper Bubbles, and the large windy area from Elementalist, to name a few. All disable projectiles. That includes our Jacaranda's Root Missile. If forced to fight in these fields, remember your Torch 5, Flame Trap, Sharpening Stone, and Entangle will just hit everything. Those moves don't care about projectiles. Additionally, your Jacaranda's Lightning Strike and your Smoke Scale's Everything work just fine. Do not waste your Axe skills, your Torch 4, your Dagger 5, or Jacaranda's F2 during a no projectile moment. Save them for after it's over. Flame Trap while traveling. Remember, the Flame Trap cooldown is a mere 12 seconds. You can use it to super speed around when traveling from one point to another, and it will nearly be up by the time you reach your destination. Remember that in a fight, when you pet swap to Smoke Scale, its next hit will be Smoke Assault, doing 5 hits on an enemy and getting in melee range of them. If you swap to the Jacaranda and you don't hit F2 immediately, it will do the Lightning Strike, which will miss a moving target, but is exceptional when it hits the point, downed enemies, or immobilized enemies. When you weapon swap, remember your next 2, 3, 4, or 5 weapon skill will consume Quickdraw, so choose accordingly. After swapping, I first use Bonfire for massive AoE damage twice in a row, Winter's Bite for AoE damage and chill from a distance twice in a row, Swoop for massive movement twice, Block for survival and bunkering twice. Or, if you're using Dagger, Stalker Strike for survival and single target damage twice. This build also is good versus hard to hit opponents, such as Thieves and Mesmers that are constantly blinking all around you. You have many moves that just hit the whole area around you every second, so as long as they're nearby you, you're stacking damage. Tough opponents. Any opponent that can do a lot of condition cleanse all at once is not a big deal. You put out so many that after the first cleanse, they will usually die into your second round of dots. Just ask Jebro.
Dude, that bleeding is crazy! What the f***? What the f***?
You may struggle with something like a Prot Hollow that can repeatedly cleanse small amounts of conditions and then turn them into boons. Over and over and over again, similar to our Healing Spring. Core Necromancers are a long fight, but you can kill them. Fight in the spring, block when spring is on cooldown, after double blocking it'll almost be up again, they usually can't break you. Enemies with massive range, such as a Longbow Ranger, can be troublesome on maps such as Faux-Fire and Capricorn that don't have a lot of corners. The long-range pressure can force you to stealth on approach or have to block when closing the distance. Not impossible, but a tougher fight than most. Against people like that, try to Jacaranda route, they'll probably cure it, then entangle them and use everything. If they start blocking, just build a happy little sharpened bonfire flame trap around their feet. Remember what we always say, if you build a man of fire, you warm him for a day. If you set a man on fire, you warm him for the rest of his life. Conclusion. As always, I am not claiming that this build will shake up the meta or change anything, but dang if this doesn't feel like one of the best ones I've made so far. I've reached 1592 rating recently, just below Platinum 2, which is the highest I've been to date, and it was while using this build, so it can at least do that much. And the wackiness of the build, along with the sheer flexibility of the Quickdraw system, is a lot of fun. Also, watching people burn. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like for the YouTube algorithm, comment if you have any questions for me or additional input, and subscribe if you would like to see more content. A special thank you to my newest Patreon supporters who help make this possible. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment for me below the video, mail me in-game at muckluck.9082, or ask me live any evening on Twitch after 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Click the follow button there to be notified when I go live. That's it for today. Happy burning!